Good morning, good life. You're listening to Detail Therapy, episode 67. With the current threat of COVID-19 consuming the minds of people all over the world, it is an uncertain time for sure. Many of you are being asked by your employers to work from home with no experience of being productive in a remote setting. Today, I want to help and answer your questions about that directly.
She's an award-winning YouTuber and best-selling author obsessed with helping you go after the life you want.
I like it.
Join her as she seeks out the stories and strategies
Give me every little detail.
of extraordinary people who found success.
I'm going to get emotional. Oh my God.
Welcome to Detail Therapy with Amy Landino.
Wow. Is this the weirdest? Like, this is weird, right? Every single person listening to this right now, whether they want to believe it or not, is going through the same insanity with this virus overtaking the world. I mean, how often do we find ourselves in exactly the same boat with a lot of the same fears and a lot of the same issues addressing us? I mean, even leaving the house, we're looking at each other like, hey, you left the house too, right? Like, what is this? I'm recording this very late because I feel like this is such a crazy moment in time that I want it to be as timely as possible because things are changing every hour. And that's really scary in a lot of situations. And I know that tomorrow's going to change when you're actually listening to this. So I just want you to know that it was really important to me that we sort of reroute what the original plan was for content this week and make sure that we keep it laser focused on the real issues at hand. And I want to start by saying that I am addressing a very, very small issue on the scale of what we're really dealing with. If you're listening to this and you're sick, I hope you just do everything in your power to get better and stay where you are, self-quarantined as much as possible, no matter what the illness might be. If you're dealing with something else that I don't understand in this moment, all because of the COVID-19 coronavirus issue that is just overtaking lives everywhere in the world, no matter how that might be, I just hope that you deal with that directly. But the way that I felt instantly called to action is that a lot of people are being asked to work from home to make sure that we do not spread this virus any more than we would have if we kept doing things as usual and we flatten the curve. And we want to do that because we want to save those that we care about us around us. Remember that usually when this is being spread, this virus, it is amongst our own family members because it's the people we are closest to. It could be your coworkers too, which is why we're working from home. And we do not want to encourage the chances of someone getting this based on their vulnerability. Or who knows, someone could be vulnerable and not even know. So this is an issue that is hitting a lot of people right now. Okay, I have to work from home. I haven't done that before, or I haven't done it effectively before. So I thought if I could break through some of that with you today, then I would like to do that. I want to give a big shout out to my video editor, Rebecca Hubert from Gatlu House, because she jumped to the ticket with me over the weekend to make sure we got a video out about it. So first and foremost, I want to make sure that you do go watch that video because those are my really big top 10 tips, what you should be thinking about with working from home. But I know that there are still some custom issues that are happening individually. And so I gave out the Detail Therapy phone number for questions specifically asking for work from home advice. And so that's what I want to dedicate this episode to today. Just in case we have anyone new listening, I would love to introduce myself to you. My name is Amy Landino, and I will be your host. You can think of me as your number one productive lifestyle coach. I'm the founder of Gatlu House, a media company dedicated to helping you go after the life you want. And in addition to this podcast, we produce the award-winning YouTube series I was just talking about a little bit ago, Amy TV. I've also authored a couple of best-selling books, one of them being Good Morning, Good Life, which is now available on Amazon. And you can check out all the links to everything I just discussed at detailspodcast.com. All right, without any further ado, let's get into the first voicemail question.
Hi, Amy. This is Karen from North Carolina, and I have a question about working remotely. I have an opportunity to do more video conferencing from home now, and I want a setup that makes me stand out. What kind of lighting should I use? How about sound? What would make me stand out when I'm video conferencing from home compared to my other colleagues? Thank you so much for your help, and I enjoy your videos. Bye.
Karen, what a great question. A lot of people aren't even thinking about this. The fact that these video calls are going to be such a pivotal part of communicating with your team. Whether you're a leader, a manager, or just an employee, how you come off in your video conferencing moments is going to be more important than you might think. I talked about this a little bit on Amy TV, but not much. Something that I'm kind of being careful to discuss is that with many of us not being experienced working from home, this is going to be a moment that our employers are looking at us and saying, wow, what are they capable of when they're not necessarily at a specific desk for a set period of time, which can be both powerful and not so great. So what we want is the powerful. We want to make sure that we are shining in this moment, not sleeping in it. So specifically, just love this question about video conferencing. If you want to upgrade your gear, then go to town. But you know what? I think if you just took a few moments to carefully plan, you would go a lot further than most do. When you work from home, you sort of just say to yourself, oh, my employer knows the jig right now. I'm at my kitchen table. This is how it is. And that's it. And you'll sit there no matter what it looks like, and you'll take the call and you'll do the best you can. And a lot of times we don't even consider what it looks like until we're live. And you know what? It's a little too late. It's going to look funny if we start running around and trying different things, right? Practice doing the conference call beforehand. My biggest piece of advice is that if you have a somewhat up-to-date laptop, the camera is very good. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you can help it perform at its highest level by sitting in front of a window or some source of lighting. Do not allow that light to be behind you. In fact, that's a form of distraction. Another thing you can do to stand out from those colleagues of yours is, if you can prevent it, make sure everyone's out of the room when you take this call. There's no kids running around in the background. There's no background sounds. If you can prevent it, a lot of people are going to be in a weird situation when they work from home, especially in this particular moment, where their childcare is wavering a little bit and they may have their kids. Have that communication with them if you can, if they're capable of learning from you, and let them know, hey, mom's working, dad's working, this is what's going on, this is what it looks like, and I have to do this so that we are healthy and safe and thriving throughout this process. So here's what I need you to understand. So a lot of those things go a long way. Sitting in front of a window and just communicating with the people around you that this is what's going on is going to help you stand out tenfold to most people who won't give a crap. The ones that are like, whatever, I do what I have to do. I have to get on this team call every day, and that's it. That's my job right now. Okay. Or you could, like Karen, try to shine a little bit in this moment. A smile goes a long way. Looking like you got dressed for work when you don't necessarily have to right now will go a long way. Doing these things is really important. Another just big suggestion, this isn't about audio, it's not about camera, but why not reach out to your coworkers who you typically might see at the water cooler or at the coffee pot or in the lunchroom and say, hey, do you want to just have a little chat for 5 to 10 minutes every day, just so we feel like we're still communicating with each other. And even the people you'll find, the people that you don't necessarily get along the greatest with, but they're a part of your daily life, it'll be good to keep that relationship going. No one wants to see us come out of this more awkward when we go back to work. So be the person that steps up and says, hey guys, let's not miss each other too much. Let's take 5 minutes to jump on a Zoom call or jump on a Skype call and just chat with one another. That initiative, if you are in a situation where you are not the owner of the company and you are trying to shine in a form of leadership that's not necessarily been granted to you as an exact role, is just an initiative you can take, that's huge. That is huge. Smile, get dressed, sit in front of a window, test your audio, jump on your FaceTime or on your Skype to test your video and your audio before you get on with anyone. Choose that designated spot that you're going to take voice calls and, video calls. You're going to be so far ahead of the pack when you do that. And I cannot stress this enough. It's probably going to be said a million times, just depending on what your questions are. I didn't cheat. I'm taking these questions in real time as I'm editing this episode myself. I'm probably going to say it a lot. Choose to shine in this moment. If you can't focus on anything good outside, the news is a mess, the people around you are a mess, and you need to hold it down for everyone, choose to shine in this moment. And your video conferences with your coworkers and your leadership are a great moment to do that, because if you can't be next to them to show this energy, you can do it on a video call. I want to do a quick mention. Fortune magazine actually just featured me in an article that I think would also come in very handy for those of you like Karen who are thinking about this. It's called How to Be Effective When You're Presenting Remotely. So if you are finding you're doing more presentations or need to do more presentations during this time, then definitely check that out. I will leave a link in the show notes.
Hey, Amy. So, home challenge question. What are some creative ways one can assess their current passion project or even career to find ways to work remote or at least some paid at-home time to their overall business or job? Thanks.
The golden question. I knew I was going to get it. I would not know you guys very well if I wasn't going to get this one. I love this so much because, like I was saying before, this is a moment to take initiative, not to go to sleep. And so I really think that this highlights that. Let's talk about a very real feeling right now. When we look at the world and the current state of what's going on and the fears that people are discussing, whether we feel them ourselves or not, or are at least entertaining them, we have to remember one very important thing, that we can only control the controllable. And we are actually being given an opportunity to get real perspective about the fact that we may or may not enjoy the moment that we are in right now as it pertains to our job, as it pertains to our career, as it pertains to allowing somebody else to have control over our financial wealth. Will you have it completely? No. Look at this. We're seeing an economic situation where not one industry has a very clear future, not even toilet paper. I mean, let's just be honest, like it's extremely in demand at the moment, but that's not a moment of clarity for that company. It's a all hands on deck situation. So you sit here and you see, okay, I work for so-and-so. Wow, it turns out me showing up to a place is important. That could be one thing. Or if you right now are sitting at home and saying, wow, I could just do this here. Why do I go to an office? There's a lot of things going on that's being reassessed by all of these companies. Sure, we all want to get back to business as usual, but you can't help but look to entertain a couple of other things going on. So this is your moment. Entertain a couple of other things going on. You're being given an opportunity to get that perspective on the absolute worst case scenario right now. What if you weren't working from home right now? There's probably someone listening that's not working from home right now that would like to work from home but doesn't have a job that's paying them to do it. There's a lot of people who are really dealing with that. What if that were you? You would have no choice but to start getting creative. There's not one very clear thing that you can do, but there are lots of creative things that you can do. If you're listening to this, you have an LTE signal or internet. That's amazing. A lot of people don't have that. That is a resource. You also have a device. That is a resource. You also probably have connection to other people, even though you can't be within 6 feet of them. That is a resource. What do you have the ability to do that either you are passionate about or is a skill set that you have that you can currently right now find out if anyone needs help with? This is a moment right now. Even if you're not 100% sure about your passion, we've talked a lot about passion this year. Now it's just about what do I do if I don't get to make the decision? Well, you need to start trying to do something that allows you more opportunity to make the decision. What is that? The one and only thing that I think matters is finding a way to help people. This might be right outside your door and hopefully not coming into contact with anyone. It might just be that somebody needs help that is in a very vulnerable state. What is good about that to you? What is empowering about that to you? What do you like about that? Or maybe you just get online, you get on social media and you listen to what people are dealing with. What are their issues? What are their issues that you're really good at? What can you do to assist? There is a rhyme and reason as to why I'm creating this podcast and the video I just did this weekend. It's the first thing that popped into my head. Man, I got to help these people. I want them to thrive at their job even though they can't sit at their normal desk with their normal resources. I want you to be able to do that. But what if you didn't have to rely on them anymore and you can take ownership over your life? Now that's possible. It's hard for a lot of people, but this is a moment you potentially could explore it. Depending on what the situation is with how your business or your employer is working with you in these work from home circumstances, you probably have to do a lot of checking in, doing a lot of things. But when you get your work done, is it possible for you to start entertaining what else you could be doing? Don't just turn on Netflix and chill. Don't just keep doing the things that you normally would do at the end of a day's work. If you would like to see more interesting and more empowering days in the future, how can you help anyone right now at a time when everyone has no problem asking for help? What can you do to support? And then can you find something that piques your interest that makes you think, wow, what if that was a thing? What if that was a new business at some point? What if that was my next job? This is better. This feels more like me. What if I did that instead? What if you started working on that right now rather than continuing to think about it? This is the moment we need to start thinking outside of the box, because we don't get to decide on behalf of our employer, if that's your situation, what happens after this. What if someone decided, oh, hey, during that time you were gone, working from home, really appreciate all the work you were doing, but turns out we don't really need that position anymore. Turns out we don't really need that staff. They could have made that decision at any given time. Now, with the economy continuing to shift, they could still make that decision. This is not a scare tactic. This is a real opportunity for you to look and get perspective about taking your life by the horns and being in charge of it yourself. Comes with a lot of risk. Comes with a lot of risk when you're a business owner, honey. Look at me right now. I am like, whoa. At any given time, I don't know when, it could happen. I don't know. Right now we're doing okay. I don't know what the future holds. But I could totally destroy people's lives who work for me if I can't help them pay the bills. That is what your employer is thinking about. You need to do what you need to do. Whether you decide to work toward the irreplaceable position and still you don't get to make that call, you can do that. And I do agree with that. I agree, Karen, post up and have the best video conferencing call ever in the history of your company so that they look at you and say, Karen busted it while we were working remotely. We cannot lose her. We cannot lose her. That is a really good idea. But if you can simultaneously make yourself irreplaceable in other ways because you can acquire your own paycheck without having to rely on somebody else telling you if you can have it or not, that is a beautiful thing. And that is what I hope people are thinking about in this moment.
Hi, Amy. This is Cindy. After watching your video on working from home, I feel like you touched on this, but I would like for you to go just a little bit deeper. I understand that if you are your own boss, you set your own hours at home, essentially. But if I'm working from home for my boss, what should that look like? Should I keep the same hours as if I were in the office? Or could I be a little more flexible with that? What do you think would make me more productive? Thanks so much, Amy. Bye.
I think in this situation, just love this question, Cindy. The fact that you want to be more productive and that could happen outside of your normal hours is yours to discover. But I think all of this comes down to communication. If my team is expected to work 9 to 5 typically, I need to know that I can send them a Slack message or ask them to do something during those hours and them get it done. That's really important to me. And so as their employer, I think that expectation is there. Now, if they were to come to me and say, hey, I just want you to know I'm actually really productive 7 to 4, is it okay if I do that? I'm going to be like, well, that's fine. I'll send you some messages earlier in the day, probably because I'm up already working at that point too, and I wouldn't expect anything of you until 9 a.m. But if I find myself in a situation where I need to get something done, we're not done until 5 p.m., that's probably still going to be there. So I think it depends on what's going on. If you have the ability to communicate with your employer and say, hey, I was just wondering, can we try something out? That's great. I would take to them information that would be empowering behind that, such as, hey, just want you to know we've been doing this work from home quarantine thing for the last week and been working 9 to 5 nonstop. But I also wanted to let you know some other things that I've done to see how I can boost my productivity and boost my efficiency. And it turns out that the majority of X project that I typically have to focus on gets done way easier between 6 and 8 a.m. because everybody's asleep. So I just want you to know that I am spending that time on that core piece of the project. Is that okay with you? Do you see any issue with that? And obviously I will be on call for the normal hours, but that is when I'm getting the bulk of the work done. You know, I really think it comes down to communicating that. Your productivity is going to be your productivity. You can't really communicate that to your employer in a way that's going to make them decide like, okay, in your situation, I'm going to change your hours. However, we all know the situation. You guys don't have cameras in your homes. That's invasion of privacy, okay? We're in a situation where you could pretty much be doing anything you want all day. Again, you can sleep or you can shine. To shine, this is an opportunity for you to communicate that. So if you would like some flexibility, that is something that you just need to talk about. But if you want to be more flexible just for the sake of being more efficient, that's fine. I think as long as you continue to be on call in the ways that you are required to for your position, get that early stuff done that is easier to do when no one's bugging you. I relate to that. My biggest things usually happen before I even talk to my team for the first time at 9 a.m. because I know I am more efficient at that time. Also, lots of night owls listening to this right now. Okay, I'm working from home, but it's so hard to get things done because I'm constantly being pinged because now we have to be pinged all the time because nobody's right next to each other. And so I can't really focus on that until I'm really wide awake, and that's at 10 o'clock at night. If that's you, then do you. But remember that your employer is expecting you during typical hours. And so there's a major communication issue there if you think, oh, we're working from home, so I can just work whenever I want. I tell my team that not only when we are working in the office, but when we are working from home, I want to be as respectful of 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, as humanly possible. I don't like asking them for things after hours. I don't like asking for things on weekends unless it's a dire situation. And so by being respectful to them for that, I expect that same respect back during those hours.
Hi, my name is Victoria Wedding. I guess it goes along with the significant other portion of it. Say you haven't been able to spend a lot of time with them and that pull to spend more time with them is really, really strong. How do you separate yourself from that as well? Like, how do you have that talk with yourself of needing to separate when you're at home, the work and home?
I just love this question so much, Victoria, because it's like brought a huge smile to my face. I go in and out between this thought process and the opposite. But let me just start with what I'm grateful for. This is what we do on a regular basis with my team. We talk about what we're grateful for. And I think a lot of people can identify with this right now, and a lot of people wish it were the case for them. We may be currently going through a self-quarantine, but for those of us who have somebody to do this with at home, I don't know about you, but I'm very grateful. I am so grateful that my husband, my dog, and I are in this little island doing this ourselves. Now, that being said, it does get to be a little stressful, and so these feelings can go in and out, right? But the fact that you're sitting in this moment and you're saying, this is so great because we're going to get through this together, and we literally get through this together because we get to spend more time together, and that's something that you deeply appreciate because it doesn't happen very often. That's amazing. But at the same time, you don't want it to get to a point where you've had too much time together, right? You still want to enjoy it very much. And no matter what, you both need your space, your typical space that you would get, because it's for the health of your mindset and also for the health of your livelihood. You do need to focus on the task at hand. So I think there's a couple things here. First of all, don't be afraid to reflect on how grateful you are with that person. And if you are making the most of every moment you do get together, with it being, you get to have breakfast, and maybe you never got to do that together before. You get to have lunch together. You never got to do that before. Communicating with them and really thinking about the present moment to yourself of how grateful you are for that moment with them is amazing. And then being able to say, okay, now I'm going to work from home in the second bedroom, and you're going to work from home at the kitchen table, and I'll see you at lunch, or I'll see you when we clock out, or, I'll see you when we're passing each other, getting more coffee or going to the restroom, whatever. Use the time that you have, this increased amount of time of not commuting and not having to just be at one place away from them all day long, to be more grateful with them, but also respect the time of others. It's so important that I sit here in my loft and record this podcast for you quietly. My husband knows that. He's also working from home. We trade. Okay, well, if someone needs quiet space, then they get the loft and they get to do their thing, and then the other person will go downstairs. And so we're doing this balancing act because we respect each other and for the amount of work that each of us still needs to do when we are not going to the office. But we definitely enjoy a little bit more coffee together. We definitely enjoy the random project we do in the middle of the day because we are business owners and we get to make that decision together. And we definitely enjoy lunch together, and I enjoy having more time to make dinner, which, by the way, at the moment I'm totally late on because I'm very excited about this podcast. But enjoy it. Be grateful for it. Sit in that moment and think, wow, when are we going to get to do this again? When we go back to our regular jobs and we're working for 8-hour blocks plus a commute. This is extraordinary. Enjoy it, but do not drop the ball. You need to respect the time of everyone, in this case, yourself, your significant other, and your employer or your business. And so do that carefully.
Hey, Amy, this is Annie Berner. I'm one of your Shine Like a Diamond Shine Squad members. This is actually not a question, but a tip, because you're answering some questions on work from home. And I didn't know if this would be on your radar, but the homeschooling community has lots of resources for parents that are like suddenly in overwhelm. I used to homeschool. My kids are all college age now. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that. I hope that's helpful to you. Just trying to reach out and support. I love your work. Thanks, girl. Have an awesome week.
Annie's shining bright like a diamond. See, this is what I'm talking about, y'all. Don't sleep, shine. Annie crushed it. I love that tip. I think it's so important. And girl, you squeaked in that voicemail while I was recording. It was so great. I even heard my Google Voice ring, and I had to ignore you, Annie. I'm sorry, because I needed that voicemail so bad. This is the best. This is what I am talking about. First of all, leverage those resources, because we are in situations where we are trying to navigate to the best of our ability, and it may not be the thing that we are best at. This is why we have the internet. Find someone who can help you. I absolutely love that. But also, what can you do to help? If you're trying to figure out how you can assist these people, get it out there. Tell the world. My husband, I love this. He's just been so advocating for helping our local restaurants and servers and bartenders who have no way of making money right now because these places are not allowing us to be served in a place of establishment, essentially. And so he put together a Twitter thread. Hey, if you are a server, put your Venmo here. And if someone feels compelled, like, let's help these people out, let's lift each other up. It's just simple things like this. And it doesn't always have to be financially driven right now. I think that that's a really important thing to a lot of people. But we are very new into this, and we need to figure out the best way to support everyone, because Venmoing everybody is going to, it's going to reach its end at some point, right? Because we've also got to make sure we can take care of ourselves for this very uncertain moment. But what can you do to offer up any support at all that is safe for you and your family, and also helpful, showing people that you can make the most of a really crap situation? Just wanted to throw that voicemail in at the end in case you could use that tip, and also to point out that this is what we do when we are in very difficult times. We help each other. I would love to hear if there was something useful on this episode of the podcast for you, or if you have more work from home questions, head over to @DetailsPodcast on Instagram and leave it over there so we can continue to work through this together. Don't forget to also check out my latest video about this topic. There's 10 really important tips in there so that you can make the most of this situation, whether you love it or not, whether you thrive in working at home or not. I totally think you're going to find a lot of this information useful if it is completely out of your element. And yes, a morning routine may or may not be one of those tips. So let's talk about it. That is all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. Make sure you subscribe for good vibes. Kiss the ones you love as long as you've been self-quarantined and nobody is sick, and probably you shouldn't do that for the time being, but also wash your hands and go after the life you want. I'll see you next Tuesday. Cheers.